The permanent outdoor KZ TV expedition passed thousands of kilometers along the most remote and hard-to-reach corners of Kazakhstan. Visited the north and south, the west and east of the country. Hot deserts, boundless steppes and mountain tops covered with eternal snow. Each landscaped zone is good and unique in its own way, but there are some places that seem to be specially created to amaze the imagination of travelers. The Kazakh Altai is one of such places. For more than a month, our film crew traveled on cars, on horseback and on foot through the Altai wilds. Hundreds of hours of video have been collected about the most representative locations of eastern Kazakhstan region. Each of these places is worthy of a separate documentary, but for now we're offering an overview TV excursion about the preserved gems of eastern Kazakhstan. The wild nature of Kazakhstan is rich and diverse. For long centuries, mountains, steppes, deserts and forests were the best friends of those who loved and understood their native land. They gave us food, shelter, roof and hideaway from the enemies. Over time, our way of life has changed, but the nature still generously shares its wealth with us. At present, the landscape and biological diversity of Kazakhstan attract an increasing number of tourists and lovers of active recreation. Together with a permanent outdoor KZ TV expedition, you will visit the most beautiful pictorial places of Kazakhstan and learn how experienced travelers survive in the wild. The Irtysh and the Ob have stretched for 5,400 kilometers from the Mongolian Altai to the Arctic Ocean. This is the world's sixth longest water artery. And if to add to this figure another 800 kilometers, the length of the Ob Bay that flows into the Kara Sea, the Ob-Irtysh river system would take the third place among the longest rivers of the world, right after the Amazon and the Nile. 2,000 kilometers of Irtysh flow through the territory of Kazakhstan. To the west from the Irtysh for many thousands of kilometers, the Great Steppe stretches, and to the east, the mountain taiga forests of southern Siberia begin. It was a long expedition. We've collected lots of materials for a documentary about the wild. We'll still have something to shoot and we'll have to come back here. But most importantly, we have outlined locations and found the right people. And now we want to quickly show the most picturesque places which we managed to visit during this expedition. First, we've surveyed the most representative natural sites in the valley of the Black Irtysh and then moved to the mountainous part of the Kazakh Altai. These are the Kurchum and Katun ranges, the Tabagatai and the Altai mountain chains. We went up to the Barod Glacier on the Beluka mountain. There we joined the scientific expedition of the Katun Reserve. Together with scientists, we were looking for places from which Sapochnikov took photos of the Beluka mountain in 1898. We made our way by car, on foot and on horseback. The biggest waterfall of Altai impressed us. Very beautiful lakes of Aids and Bukhtarma. Depressing impression was made by the mountain's dead pit. If going from Ust-Kamenogorsk towards the city of Zaysan and turning off the road to the foothills of the Mani Rock range, you can get to a unique natural object, the stratigraphic paleontological monument of nature Burning Arders. The bright red, orange, yellow and pink shades of the gorge resemble a frozen fire. Soils in these places were formed in the conditions of the hot tropical climate of Mesozoic, and later under the influence of chemical weathering they acquired such a motley appearance. In 1959, the complex paleontological expedition found here well-preserved eggs of dinosaurs and petrified remains of the lizards. paleobotanic monument of Ashutas is located on the right bank of the Black Irtysh, 18 kilometers from the village of Buran. Ashutas means the bitter stone. Perhaps the hill got this name due to a slight smell of sulfur. This smell can be distinctly smelled in unventilated niches and caves where the surface is rich in organic remains of plaster casts. Approximately 25 million years ago, during the Oligocene era, subtropical climate prevailed here. Innumerable herds of wild horses, bisons, camels and antelopes were wandering across the endless forest steppe, and the banks of rivers and lakes full of magnolias, sycamores and oaks were inhabited by woolly rhinoceroses, Indrocotyriums, elephants, huge deer, Megaloceroses and other giant mammals. Large predators, prehistoric saber-toothed cats and hyenas, not inferior in size to modern lions, were hunting them. There were even predatory species of cloven-hoofed animals, giant wild boars or entelodonts. Modern humans would probably be uncomfortable to live with such neighbors, not speaking about our distant ancestors. Back then they were the harmless vegetarians, lived in Africa and led mostly an arboreal lifestyle. In the territory of Irtysh, the first hominids have probably appeared at the end of the beginning of the Middle Paleolithic, but quickly became accustomed and showed to the giant neighbors on the ecosystem that physical strength was not the main thing in the evolutionary struggle. If going across the Irtysh from the Zaysan bridge to Kochum, then on the 79th kilometer of the road, to the left a barely noticeable steppe road will turn. It will lead to the Kin-Karish Natural Monument. The chain of hills with a total area of 300 hectares has the status of a specially protected area, but it is absolutely uninhabited. Kin-Karish is translated from the Kazakh language as the proud handsome. Truly, you go along the burnt-out steppe and everything is monotonous, but suddenly, for no apparent reason, a bright spot appears on the horizon. When approaching, this spot turns into a picture from the film What Dreams May Come To. Towers, pagodas, cliffs and gorges shimmer with all the colors of the rainbow. Who has painted the steppe hills in such fantastic colors? Bacteria about 80 million years ago. The Zaysan cavity was formed at the end of the Cretaceous. Freshwater lake with hundreds of tributaries appeared then. Throughout the Paleogene, humid and warm monsoon climate prevailed here, alternating with rainy and arid seasons. The landscape looked like a marshy plain with humid tropical forests of mammoth trees, sycamores, araucarias, magnolias, cedar and other trees. In the last 15 million years, the climate in the region has changed significantly. The ancient rivers have disappeared and the sedimentary rocks formed by them eventually decomposed into motley clays, sandstones and pebble. Kin-Karish is a real safari park for photographers and paleontologists. Here the scientists find petrified trophies from the dinosaurs era and photographers hunt for a bizarre play of light among the Martian landscapes. The Shelka Mess Cape is located on the shore of Lake Zaysan, 20 kilometers from the fishing village of Amanat. It is possible to wander for hours on out-of-the-wedge labyrinths and gorges, and something new and unusual will pop out at every step. One can easily get lost in narrow passages, arches, grottos and niches. The violent fantasy of nature painted the whole labyrinth in the most incredible colors and shades. Our distant ancestors were not so spoiled by the entertainment industry as we are. That's why they appreciated such natural attractions and settled in such places with pleasure. Archaeologists have found the traces of the early man sites here. It is possible to imagine with what delight the primitive kiddies rushed to the secret nooks of this prehistoric Luna Park. Many more picturesque corners could be found in Irtysh land if desired, but the expedition schedule made the crew leave the banks of Zaysan and set to the mountains. A significant part of the mountainous province of southern Altai is occupied by the Katon-Karagay National Park. It is included in the list of 200 transboundary protected areas of global ecological importance. The park administration is located in the district center of Katon-Karagay. The traditional tourist route from Katon-Karagay leads to the village of Birel. 15 kilometers from the village, on the banks of the Bukhtamar River, the archaeological complex of Birel burial mounds is situated. More than 100 burial mounds are stretched by a chain along the river bank. The first mound from this group was opened and described in 1865 by the archaeologist Radlov. In 1997-1999, an international expedition led by Professor Samashev made a number of important discoveries in Birel. For the first time in the study of the ethnogenesis of the people of the Central Asian region, a new molecular genetic method of research was used. Birel's findings allowed scientists to conclude that in the Iron Age, in the 6th to 3rd centuries BC, there were quite developed civilizations on the territory of Kazakhstan, with the first signs of emerging state. The next point on the way of the expedition is the Lake of Ides. There is a small tourist complex on the shore of the lake, which belongs to the Katon-Karagay National Park. It is possible to accommodate in the guest house for 2,000 tenge per day. It is not difficult to guess why the lake has got its name. Here there are many Ides indeed. Even the most inexperienced fisherman will not remain without a catch. Black-throated loons are also passionate fishermen. Therefore, they prefer to nest on ponds rich in fish. Several pairs of loons come annually to the Lake of Ides. Each family brings out up to 10 nestlings. By September, the young loons should be strong enough for a long flight. It is difficult enough to get to the warm seas of Southeast Asia, but the loons will cope with it. They have been learning the art of distant traveling for more than 1,000 years. The Mustau or the Beluga mountain is located 50 kilometers from Ides Lake. The mysterious peak is always wrapped in fogs, but in good weather it can be seen right from the shore of the lake. The dense taiga forests around the lake are inhabited by bears, moose, morals, roe deer and other animals. They are very cautious. It is not easy to see them, but with the help of photo traps, the park's staff constantly monitors the state of wildlife populations. We have to leave our cars on Ides Lake. Further only a horse trail leads to the Beluga mountain. Horses can be rented by prior arrangement with the Department of Tourism of the National Park. Also, you need to think about passes to the border zone in advance. The Audokizi film crew joins a group of scientists studying the state of glaciers in the Beluga mountain region. We came here not by chance, because our colleagues from the Katon-Karagay Park are our long-standing partners. We've started cooperation in 2004 and worked together in different directions. Just recently, in 2017, UNESCO decided to create a transboundary biosphere reserve, Big Altai, on the basis of the Katun Reserve in Russia and the Katon-Karagay National Park in Kazakhstan. This is the first territory of such a high nature conservation status in Asia. Equipment, clothes, tents, food and outfits are put into special bags, courgères. Along a barely noticeable path, the expedition rises towards Beluga. We have to cover more than 40 kilometers during the first day. The weather is unstable. In the mountains, it often happens that the bright sun shines and, as they say, nothing would change the weather, but suddenly a small cloud appears on the horizon and after an hour the shower is already pouring down. The bridge across the White Beryl was built in the 30s of the last century, but it still works. The Kokol waterfall is located about 18 kilometers southeast of the Beluga mountain. Before influx into the White Beryl River, the great Kokol falls from a steep cliff of about 80 meters high. Splitting upon the rocks, the falling water mixes with air, forming a cloud of the smallest negatively charged particles. Many tourists come here especially to breathe this suspension. Near the waterfall there are picturesque ruins of the miners' village called the Lower Camp. Workers of the tungsten mine lived here. There are 8 kilometers from the lower to the upper camp. In good weather, this distance can be covered in 2 hours, but during the rain it is more difficult to move. Hoofs of horses slip in the mud. Small streams turn into the raging ones. So even horses don't want to go further, because thunder roars and the place is very gloomy. It seems that 70 years ago people suddenly left the upper camp. Stuff and tools are left in the places where they were abandoned in a hurry. We barely climbed here upon a barely visible horse trail, and that's what we saw here. It's a legendary 3,000 weight lorry. 70 years ago, people came here by car. But apparently this lorry did not carry the ore. As it is known, in summer the ore was carried on carts and in winter on a sleigh. This machine was once dragged here somehow, and it worked here right in the camp. Even our horses are worried. You see, it's a sledgehammer. Works on the tungsten mine did not stop even in winter. The ore was transported on a sleigh to the Lake of Ides. The most surprising thing is that this hard work was done by women. The thunderstorm is terrible. The storm is coming. We need to leave now. We can stay overnight in one of the abandoned houses in the lower camp. Before going to Beluga's bottom, we have to dry our clothes and get a good night's sleep. There are about 10 kilometers from the lower camp to the edge of the Beryl Glacier. Tourists often stop for a night near a small lake with clear and warm water, which they called the Lake of Balance. The lake is shallow and closed, so in summer the water warms up to 20 degrees Celsius and becomes quite comfortable for swimming. People believe that this water has medicinal properties and contributes to acquiring spiritual balance. Our film crew swam in the lake and got cleared, if not spiritually, then physically. Warm and pure water miraculously washed away the fatigue of a heavy trek. The Birel Glacier flows from the southeastern slopes of the Beluga Mountain in a wide 10-kilometer finger. At the height of 2,000 meters, the source of the White River Birel flows out of the grotto in the lower edge. During the intensive melting of the glacier, the water in the river carries a lot of sand and clay suspension, which makes it a dull milk color. From the same peak on the southern slope of the Beluga Mountain, the largest Altai River of Katun originates. Katun and Birel can be compared to two sisters whom the fate separated in infancy and joined again in adulthood. The Birel refers to the basin of the Irtysh and the Katun flows into Bia. Birel flows on the territory of eastern Kazakhstan region and Katun in the mountainous Altai. But after thousands of kilometers, their waters meet again in the mighty Ob. The task of the research group is to find the places from which, in 1819, the famous geographer Vasily Sapochnikov made the first photographs of the Beluga Mountain. The problem of climate change has long ceased to be scientific and has moved into the sphere of wide activity. We've initiated a project that supposes to show local residents that climate change does exist. We take photos taken at the end of the 19th century and come to the same locations and take pictures of what has remained for the moment. It is very clearly visible that the nature really changes very much. Glaciers recede rapidly. The upper boundary of the forest rises. All this is easy to show. It was not difficult to find the place where Sapochnikov photographed the Birel Glacier, but how extremely did it change over the past 120 years? Judging by these photos, the glacier descended, fell about 50 meters and lost a few kilometers in length.
Ледники без сомнения тают, но вот хорошо это или плохо к этому.
The glaciers, no doubt, are melting, but there is still no single point of view on whether it is good or bad. Some people believe that global warming is a myth that is beneficial to someone. Others believe that there is nothing terrible in global warming, since natural history is full of examples when warming contributed to climate humidification, increase in forest area and biodiversity. And cooling, on the contrary, made the climate more arid, intensified desertification processes and reduced biodiversity. And third, people believe that modern global climate changes cannot be compared with those that were known to the natural history of the Earth, because they are technogenic and proceed hundreds of times faster.
По естественным причинам.
From the Beluga mountain area, the expedition travels to the southeastern end of the national park. The slopes of southern Altai and Tabogatai ridges, as well as the Kazakhstani part of the high-altitude plateau of Ukok, are the most inaccessible corners of Kazakhstan Altai. Now there is no economic activity except strictly controlled cognitive tourism. The Bukhtarmar River originates from the lake of Bukhtarmar, located on the border of Kazakhstan and Russia. This is one of the most difficult to access and poorly populated places in the Kazakh Altai. For many years, the border regime limited the access of unauthorized people, so the nature has been preserved here quite well. The lake is famous for its abundance of grayling, and the surrounding taiga is full of wild animals. Grayling in mountain rivers of Altai is usually caught on a fly. From the Bukhtarma Valley, the expedition sets for another gem of eastern Kazakhstan region, Lake Makakol. For a modern tourist who wants to get acquainted with the Kazakh Altai, it would be an unforgivable mistake to drive past Makakol. Its beauties were enthusiastically described in notes of the founders of the tourist genre, the famous travelers Semyon Tanshansky, Struve, Potanin, Sapozhnikov, Obruchev and others. There are two ways to get to Makakol from Katon-Karagay. A detour along the road will take 450 kilometers or 100 kilometers along the mountain road. The mountain road originates in the village of Chingistai, crosses the ranges of Tabagatai and southern Altai and goes to the shore of Lake Makakol near the village of Urunkaika. The road is called the Austrian. It was built in 1915-1916 by Austrian prisoners of war. It passes through the most picturesque places and is therefore very popular among tourists. The national park is experiencing a real surge of ecotourism. Car, horse and foot routes become popular year to year. The film crew meets with a group of eco-tourists from New Zealand and the United States. They are making a 7-day horseback tour on the Tabagatai Ridge.
I love Kazakhstan so much I've come back for the 3rd time. Some of the best horse riding I've ever been on. Beautiful places to ride horses. The horses are great. The local ranges are fantastic. It's really nice to see the wildlife. I've seen a brown bear and a cub day before yesterday while we're riding the horses.
Adventure and ethnographic tourism not only give the national park additional funds for protection, but also involve local residents in the sustainable nature management system. Rent of guest houses, horses, guide services, foodstuffs sale create a significant financial support for the residents of remote villages. Lake Makakol is located at 1400 meters height in the intermountain valley between the Kochum Range and the Ajutau Mountains. The length of the lake is 38 kilometers and the width is 19 kilometers. The major part of the lake belongs to the Makakol State Reserve, whose administration is located in the village of Urunkaika on the shore of the lake. The lake is rich in fish. Prior to the creation of the reserve, the villagers engaged mainly in cattle breeding and fishing. We harvested grayling and uskuch. Uskuch is an endemic subspecies of linok. Now commercial fishing is prohibited on the lake, but local residents are allowed to catch 5 kilograms of fish for personal use. With the development of ecological tourism, many residents of Urunkaika began to master the craft of local tour operators. There is no shortage of customers in summertime. It took a whole month for the Outdoor KZ team for a ring trip to the Kazakh Altai and visiting some picturesque locations. But in order to see and shoot on video all the beauty and wonders of this region, a lifetime will not be enough. Therefore, we will definitely return here to tell you more about the unknown places of the amazing and unique world of nature.